The New York Times claims that big electric pickup trucks or big electric vehicles can pollute as much as small gasoline-powered cars. Is this true? Well, actually, I think it is. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. My name's Sam Evans. I'm coming to you from Bangkok. I had to think about that for a second. Coming to you from Thailand. Normally, I'm based in Melbourne. If you're a long-time viewer of the channel, you know what's been happening lately, why I'm here in Thailand. If you're not a long-time viewer of the channel, I'll put a link in the description below of why I'm here, what's going on, and the whole cancer saga that's been happening. And if you'd like to, you can watch the video where the medical professionals in Australia, we believe, incorrectly diagnosed my wife. We think what they said was wrong, and not just wrong, it was nihilistic. It was like, yeah, you're going to die. It's incurable. Just suck it up. I don't think that's true. Based on the treatment she's been getting here so far, which you guys have been able to help us to afford, she's definitely shown some signs of improvement. Of course, the longer we can do that treatment, the more chance she has of living. So thank you so much for helping us with that. Your support has been absolutely invaluable, and well, hopefully it all works. It looks like it could. Now, I'll put a link in the description below to the GoFundMe campaign. Is it true that a large electric pickup truck or a large electric vehicle can pollute as much as a small gasoline-powered car? Well, I mean, objectively speaking, it's complicated. It's not quite that simple because pollution isn't just fumes. Pollution isn't just the carbon emissions coming from your tailpipe. It's also other things that we're not aware that actually cause significant damage to us, which include brake dust, tire compounds like bits of tire that fly through there. When you get this kind of stuff inside your body, it is actually really bad for you. And I remember actually a little story here that I can share with you that affected me, which, I mean, this could happen in other ways. I was standing at a train station, right? I was standing at a train station. There was a lot of people on this station. I was on the platform. Train comes past and I felt just sort of like a little flick, kind of like a little tiny insect flicking into my eyeball. I didn't think too much of it. I just thought, that's a little bit sore, and I rubbed my eye a little bit, but I tried to flick it, like you know what you do when you get something in your eye, and you think, well, I'll flick. Kept on flicking, and nothing happened. It just got gradually worse and worse and worse until I was in absolute agony. And I mean, it was painful. Now, I looked in the mirror, and it was very hard to see, but I could see something really, really small in my eyeball. So my dad, at the time, I think I was about 18 years old. I was living at home. My dad, he took me to see a doctor the next day. And by this time, my eye was weeping, and it was just, the pain was excruciating. Doctor says, you got something in your eye. He pulls out some tweezers and puts them in my eyeball and tries to pull this thing out of my eye. Didn't come out. Literally didn't come out. He tries again, tries to pull it out. Feels like my eye's going to get pulled out of my head. Doesn't work. They say, okay, we can't help you. We've tried to pull it out. They tried a fair few times. You need to go and see an eye specialist. We go to the eye specialist and he tries to pull it out as well. He can't get this thing out. Then he gets out a drill. I kid you not. He pulls out a drill, puts this drill into my eyeball, and he goes, no, hang on a minute. No, change my mind. Sit on this thing so I can hold your head still while I drill it into your eyeball. So I have to sit on this thing that holds me like this. So my head is stuck in this one position. And then I see this drill coming towards my eye, and he literally drilled the piece of metal out of my eyeball. It was insane. But he did manage to get the metal out. Now, unfortunately, the truth is, this kind of thing is more common than you realize. Things flicking up from cars, whether that's tire debris, metal, whatever, it is common, and it is causing pollution. It does cause issues, maybe not the kind of issues that I had exactly, but kind of similar things. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen when you actually inhale this stuff. It's bad. My recommendation to people is don't live in a dense city if you don't have to. Live on the outer parts of that city. Work from home if you can. Try to avoid the situation where you're going to be out breathing in the fumes in cities. And not the fumes that, like I said, they're not just diesel and gasoline fumes. There's all kinds of stuff in the air that you don't see, small particles everywhere. Now, the New York Times published an article with the title, "Just How Good for the Planet Is That Big Electric Pickup Truck?" This comes as no surprise, says Inside EVs, since people have been poking fun at EVs like the massive and expensive GMC Hummer EV, and the Tesla Cybertruck is on the way this year. Now, obviously the GMC Hummer EV is quite a bit bigger than the Cybertruck. In fact, the Hummer EV is enormous. It's a monstrosity. I'd poke fun at it as well. I think it does make sense. I think it's just not very practical. It's sort of like a big toy. I see the Cybertruck as being much more practical. That's my opinion. But maybe I'm just delusional because I have a pre-order for one, and I obviously like the brand Tesla a lot more than I like the brand General Motors. Either way, I can understand where people would be coming from if they said the Cybertruck and the Hummer are not real great for the environment. You have a point, especially when it comes to the Hummer. Like I said, it's the heaviest vehicle you can buy, which is technically not a large truck, right? When hybrid and electric cars first came to market, they were typically small, polarizing, and practical commuters without much in the way of pizzazz or performance. Yeah, well, this is true, right? The Toyota Prius, it wasn't very sexy. Have you seen the original Toyota Priuses before they became kind of a fashion icon in Hollywood? Before that model came along, they were just they were basically poo ugly. They were terrible, right? Now, people wanted large electric trucks and three-row SUVs. However, in order for automakers to prove that EVs are just as good or much better than gas cars, larger and more practical models needed to arrive, and with impressive performance. Now, the New York Times author Elena Shao admits that choosing an electric pickup truck over a gas-powered truck will reduce emissions massively. In fact, it makes a huge difference. Just imagine if every single pickup truck in the United States was powered by electricity. Now, sure, there will still be emissions from brake dust and from tires and other things that come off vehicles, but it would be a much better situation for your health. Much, much better. She said, take the Ford F-150 pickup truck compared with the electric F-150 Lightning. The electric versions are responsible for 50% less greenhouse gas emissions per mile. That's huge. However, the New York Times article takes a turn to say that while large electric vehicles are cleaner and more efficient than large gas vehicles, they're not as clean or efficient as smaller EVs. I think this is pretty obvious. We know that EVs are better for the environment than gas cars. It makes sense that the comparison would hold more weight if you choose similar rivals. However, in this case, you could, to be fair, you could just come along and say, well, an electric bicycle pollutes less than any gasoline car in history, or an electric whatever. But it's not really a fair comparison, is it? And this is what they're doing here, the New York Times are doing here. So I think it's not a fair comparison. But just for the sake of argument, do they have a point? Well, I think they do. Now, the New York Times article says that large electric pickup trucks that have large battery packs and use more electricity are polluting in a variety of ways. This means they have more overall emissions for their life cycles. Meanwhile, small EVs may create lots of emissions during the manufacturing process, but it doesn't take long for them to offset those emissions during their emissions-free time on the road. And now that the world is transferring so quickly to renewable energy, it's not going to take long at all before electric cars and their emissions are just basically wiped out. Once we hit, all renewables around the world, or at least everywhere that we manufacture vehicles, or everywhere that we manufacture pretty much anything, which won't take that long when you think about it. For example, there's enough renewable energy in China to power every single house in China, every single person's energy needs. But where we're getting all the coal use is from the manufacturing. The thing is, though, manufacturing, of course, right, is a numbers game. So in China, even though you may not realize this, actually they are creating massive amounts of renewable energy, and that will increase enormously over the next few years because renewable energy is so much cheaper. Getting back to the story, the New York Times author points out that large and heavy vehicles create a higher safety risk than small cars, and I think that's true. But obviously, it's equally true comparing gasoline-powered cars, whether they're large, to gasoline-powered cars that are small. If people are going to drive family-friendly or work-ready vehicles, regardless, EVs are still better for, all the reasons we know about. For one, you can power them entirely with your own solar energy. You can become independent of the energy grid. You can become independent of big oil. The US has a growing appetite, unfortunately, for large and extravagant vehicles. That's true. And there's been a recent series of protests in the United States with anti-large vehicle groups going around and sabotaging these large SUVs, or just SUVs in general. They don't care if they're EVs or not. They go around and they slash the tires. It's become a common process. It's happened to many thousands of vehicle owners in the United States. And in the comment sections of many websites, I see this comment constantly. What is with people's obsession with large vehicles? It sickens them. They hate it. They hate that people need a large vehicle. But unfortunately, oftentimes, these people seem unable to distinguish between the people that need them for work, where you often do, and the people that don't need them. They just have one because, well, hey, why not? It'll be fun, right? It's a lifestyle choice. And in that case, I can see their point. But unfortunately, for these people sabotaging cars, they're not able to distinguish between the people that need them. I mean, some of these vehicles are just because the person has a big car because they have 6 kids. It could be a blended family. It could be like, maybe people's parents die and then they get together and they have 3 kids in each family and there's 6 kids in the family. It could be any kind of scenario. So I think putting a blanket ban on large cars in general is disingenuous, it's childish, it's emotional, and I don't agree with it. In fact, I know many of you guys that watch the channel, I know many of you strongly dissuade people against large cars and you're very against them. And I understand that. And in principle, I agree. But sometimes there has to be an exception to the rule. So these comments that I'm seeing everywhere, I think they should stop. They're childish. Saying, SUVs are bad, large vehicles are bad. Yeah, you're probably right. In fact, you are right. Whether they're electric or gas, they're not good. They're not. But the truth is, a lot of people do need them. So let's not write them all off and just say they're all bad, they're all going to kill us, because if you think about it, yes, it's true that they're not great, but it's also equally true that an electric F-150 is a much better option for your health than a gasoline-powered one. And it's also true that you're never going to win an argument when you try and convince someone what to buy. They'll simply do exactly the opposite of what you say. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.